Hi friends, I hope you are having the best day ever, and I hope that you are excited as I am about these DIY Valentine's Day decor. Let's go ahead and get started with DIY number 1. So I took this canvas, I think this one's from Michael's, and I believe it is an 11 by 14, but I went ahead and took this canvas and then a scrap piece of lace that I found in my scrap fabric bin. And it ended up being the perfect size for this, which I was very grateful for. So I went ahead and put this, basically laid it down, and then flipped the canvas back over so that I can secure it on the back with some staples. So then I just kind of folded over the edges, and then I'm just going to use, I only own a very miniature size stapler, so I just used that little guy to secure the lace onto the canvas, and it ended up working great. And right here you can see that I use the lace is a stretch lace, so I just kind of pull it over the edge a little bit, then use the stapler to really secure it. And then once all of the edges are fully secured, I then went through and took off the excess lace from the backing just with a pair of scissors. And then I absolutely love that this fabric has like an iridescent look to it because it adds just the perfect detail for this craft. Okay, and then this piece I made in 2020, and it is kind of falling apart, like it doesn't hold on the wall anymore. So I took those little button pieces from that, and then I also took all of these pieces from an Amazon pack I found. I believe the description said that they were buttons, but they definitely are not, but they are perfect for this craft. So I then just laid them out in a heart design just to give me an idea of how big I want the heart, and also to give me an idea of if I wanted it to be landscape or portrait. And I did decide on the size and also that I did want it landscape style. So then I took a piece of paper and cut out the heart in the size that I wanted. Once the heart was cut out, I then used a piece of chalk in pink to outline the heart onto the canvas to give me an outline of where to put all of the little bling pieces. As you probably figured out, I am just going to glue all of these little bling pieces onto the heart canvas, obviously inside of the heart, to give it the heart design that I am going for. And I did this just with a dab of hot glue on the back, and then just continued throughout the entire canvas using both these buttons and also the bling pack. And then right here is a button that I have in my stash that I hadn't used yet. So I'll go ahead and show you that I just removed the plastic piece that's on the back just with a pair of pliers. And these ones had the little wire cutter in the back, but I don't know that I really needed them. I think the pliers by themselves would have done just fine to take that piece off. I also used some pearls because I thought it gave it a little bit extra, and I knew that I made the heart a little too big to fill out the space perfectly with just the bling, so I used a little bit of pearl beads as well. and the final piece is added. Honestly, this one makes me so happy. Like, do you see all that sparkle just from like the tiny little camera? Oh, I love that one. Okay, we'll move on to DIY number 2 though. So this one, I took a little wood box that I got from Hobby Lobby, and then I added some water and some brown paint to a cup and mixed it all around. I am doing this so that I can kind of make the wood a little darker, kind of giving it a stain without actually buying stain. So I just did it with this brown and some water. And then I just used a paper towel to smear it onto the piece of wood. It's like a little basket wood piece. And I did decide that it was a little too light, so I am going to add a little bit darker brown paint right here, and then mix that up and add that to the wood as well. There we go. That's the color that I was more looking for. And then I went ahead and added this fully to the whole little basket thing. Now while we wait for that to dry, I am going to make these letters with these wood pieces. I got a 4-pack of these plaques from Hobby Lobby as well, and we're going to make little wood letters to go inside of that basket with them. Now, a couple of them aren't as pretty as all of them, but we're going to be covering them up with paper, so it won't matter in the end anyways. So I just picked the most romantic pinks I could find, or like ones that I really loved the design of, and I'm basically just going to trace the wood piece or the wood plaque on the back side, because I'm going to just use the bigger back side, and trace that with a pencil and then cut that out. And then I just added the paper to the wood plaque with just using the tacky glue I usually get from Dollar Tree, although I did use a paintbrush to smear it. In the end, I think I only did this to this first one. I decided it just wasn't worth it, but the paper was thick enough. I used cardstock paper, so it worked perfectly fine. And then we're going to basically take the same measurements for the flap part of the envelope. So I just did the same measurements and cut that out. I then almost folded the piece of paper in half, but only pinched the very bottom to really give me like where the very middle was, and then cut a triangle out in that. I then went ahead and put a little dot where I knew the center was based on that, and cut to the center just so that it gives this kind of envelope flap look. Just hopefully that makes sense. I did think this one was a little small, so I did cut a new one that was a little bit bigger. I then just glued that to the top and completed this same process for all 4 of those plaques using different colored paper. And then once all of the plaques have their paper, I then just removed any excess paper by using some sandpaper, and then I did just sand off a little bit of the edge just to give it a little bit more of a rustic look, I guess. But I just thought it looked a little bit better than having the paper over the edges. I then just took these wood ornaments from Dollar Tree and I took out just the plain wood ones and added those to the center of the letters, just to kind of make it look like it is a sill. I then just added all 4 of my beautiful letters to that box, and I think this turns out so cute and kind of is like a love letter DIY. Now on to DIY number 3. I took this tic-tac-toe game with X's and O's from the Hobby Lobby again, and I'm going to replace all of the O's with hearts for more of a Valentine's tic-tac-toe. And I am missing one X for this to be like a complete tic-tac-toe, but it can just look like it is kind of in the works. So I paint all of these 5 X's in this brown khaki color. Once all the X's are painted, I then took the mini hearts from Hobby Lobby as well. They come in 9 different designs and they are a little thin, so I am going to have to stack them up together to be the same width as the X's. And so I am just measuring out right here how many I'm going to need to be the same width. And it ended up being I needed 5. So I'll have 1 left over from the pack. But I did pick out the 3 that I would want for the tic-tac-toe game, and then I am going to paint the top one for each of those designs. Now once that top one is painted, it's time to stack them up, and I just used hot glue and put the hot glue in sections that the cutouts weren't, and then just placed each one on top of each other to make them more thick, and then I added the painted one to the very top. And then I just placed the tic-tac-toe design, so the hearts are going to be winning. And so I placed 3 X's on the top and 2 X's, because I'm out of the third, on the bottom. And then I did the hearts in a diagonal going across so that they technically win the game. And moving right along to DIY number 4, I am going to make those 2 hearts that you see in the yarn hearts that you see in the corner. I am going to be using some paper to cut out some hearts just to trace onto some foam. So I went ahead and did a couple different sizes. So you can see that checkered one down there, and then we're going to do that really small one, and then this one. Like I said earlier, we're just going to cut these out of foam. So this is just some foam board that I've had left over, and I have been saving little scraps because you never know. And obviously this comes in handy for this. So I just use the heart that I cut out of the paper to make the heart shape from the foam. And then we're just going to use that piece and wrap yarn around it again and again to make it more full and beautiful, and just make sure that the foam piece you can't see the foam piece when you're wrapping the yarn around. So make sure all of the corners and like all the black basically is covered with the yarn. And now that the yarn is fully wrapped around, you can insert the end of the yarn piece on inside of another piece to hold it in place. And then that's the finished product. You can also do these with styrofoam heart shapes from Hobby Lobby. These ones were $1.99, but they always have sales, so like 40% off. And you just wrap around going inside the hoop, wrapping all the way around those little styrofoam hearts to give a little bit of a different look. Or you could just wrap them throughout the tops if you didn't want to cut out foam. I think that would probably give the same look as the first pink look. I didn't try that, but I'm sure they would be very beautiful. And then you can display these like I have here all together in some kind of container, or if you do a Valentine's Day tree or a year-round tree, these make great ornaments. And on to DIY number 5. This one is going to be fully Dollar Tree items. So the canvas is from Dollar Tree. And then we're going to be using some paint. I am again using the khaki paint from earlier. And we're just going to add that to this canvas and paint it all good. I am then just grabbing the fake leather from the vinyl section of Dollar Tree, and we're going to use those Dollar Tree hearts from earlier as well, those wood cutouts, and I'm going to use this as a trace I actually started out by trying to cut it, and that was not working. So we're going to then just trace this with the faux leather and then cut 9 of them out to place on the canvas. When I originally bought all this stuff and thought of this idea, I thought I had some of those leather punch lettering, but I cannot find them in my craft room. So this is going to be a little bit different because I wanted to use those cutouts or those like punches to make the candy heart sayings. But since I could not find them, we are just going to be using this metallic marker instead to do sayings like be mine and kisses and sweetheart and those kind of things for these 9 hearts. And then once I had all my sayings on there, I then just placed them 3 by 3 onto the canvas and glued them down using some tacky glue. And then once all of these were glued down, I did flip the canvas over to make sure that the leather didn't like roll up on the sides, and just like pressed a book on top of the canvas, and it definitely helped make the edges of the leather stay down better, because as of right now you can kind of see they're peeling up a little bit even with the glue, so that was beneficial for sure. Okay, moving on to DIY number 6. This one is going to be the first garland that we're going to do, and this one is going to be the bow garland. So I basically didn't actually measure these out. I just kind of used my hand and did a hand width size, and then I cut my material in half, and then that size was going to be the size that I used for my bows. So I definitely didn't measure these, sorry, but they worked out perfectly for my hand width. So I'm guessing probably about 5 inches maybe. But I then took these pieces, and this first one I did inside out and glued it down. And so I glued the one side and then connected the other side to it. And then this is what I meant by inside out, because as you can see, I then had to flip it right side out so that the shiny side was showing. And this was slightly pointless, as you can see in just a minute, because I am going to fold this over once to the middle and then glue that down and fold the other side down so that this kind of makes like a rectangle. And then that would make the bow, or the main part of the bow. And the reason this was pointless, or flipping it inside out was pointless, is because you can't see that anyways. So for the rest of them, I just left them and didn't have to flip them. But I basically glued the sides together. I don't know if you learned the hot dog and hamburger side. So this is the hot dog way, and then we're going to be doing the hamburger kind of way, folding it in on itself to glue that down. And then we're just going to repeat that until you have enough to be the size of the garland that you want. And then for the rest of the bow, we're going to be doing that same width that we originally did and cut one more of those so that this can be kind of the bottom edges of the ribbon. I also cut a strip of about 2 inches by, I would say, 4 inches to make the part that wraps around the bow. And then I did the same thing with the very first part where I glued these hot dog styles together. Okay, I then just scrunched that first piece that we made into the second piece so that it kind of gives the bow look. And then I'm just going to hot glue the very back of that third piece that we used. And so then we're just going to put a little hot glue on that or the back of the 2 pieces that you've already done, and then wrap that piece all the way around the front of those other 2 pieces and then hot gluing that in the back. Hopefully this makes a little bit of sense. It's hard to explain how to do it, but hopefully the visuals, you can understand what I'm trying to do here. And then you've got your first one done, but we're just going to finish it off by cutting the ends of the ribbon pieces in a diagonal to give it more of that bow look. And then honestly, you're just going to keep repeating this until you have your desired length for your garland. And then you're going to connect these pieces together using hot glue on the very edges, and then just start connecting them. And then I didn't show this part, but I did just add a little bit of the leftover fabric to the very edge of the first one and the last one so that I can hook them onto anywhere that I need to, so that there's somewhere to hang these. Okay, and our final DIY for this video, it is the final heart garland. So I first took the sculpting wire. This one I did get from Michael's, I believe. And I believe there's a thinner one, but I did pick up this thicker one for a different project and never used it. So I'm using it today because that's what I have. So then I just cut pieces, or like a piece that I thought would be a good size for a starting heart. And I first shaped the heart, and then I'm going to use one of the ends to like make a little loop so that the beads do not fall off, and so that in the very end we can use that little loop. But because I shaped it, I did need to eventually straighten it out, because it made it so much easier to do with the straightened it out. So for the other ones, I just left them straight. But then once you've got all of your wood beads placed on there, you can then insert the wire into that hole or that little loop that you made before. And I just closed that bad boy up. From that side, just made basically another loop. And then once that is all closed, you can then shape the wire with the wood beads on it to make it the perfect little heart. And now these wood beads I got in a giant pack off of Amazon, so I'll go ahead and link that in my bio or in the description, not my bio, but in the description for you if you want to get those too. And I originally wanted these all to be like hooked together technically, but it just was not working out. And you can see right here how difficult it was just to like get these pieces started. Obviously that could have been prevented by starting the little loop first, but it just wasn't working out as well as I wanted it to. And it was mainly not working out. One, because of how difficult it was to actually get them to connect and work with them connected to each other. But two, once the garland was actually put together, or a couple of them were put together, it just kept falling weird. And so I figured as a garland, it just wasn't going to look as pretty as I wanted it to. So after deciding that was not going to work out, I then just took these pieces apart and put them back together. So they are still going to be a wood garland, but instead of intertwining them, I am just going to add a little bit of thinner wire to connect them to each other. So I basically found this wire. This one's from Michael's. And as well, I guess the first one was from Michael's too. But I'm then just going to find 2 beads and put the wire in between them, and then twist that wire until it is secure to both pieces. And then I cut the little ends off of the wire and tuck them into one side. And then that way they were connected, and I continued to do that for the rest of the garland. And I did find these at Hobby Lobby for $2.99. They are just the wood bead hearts that you could use instead of making your own. These would just be all of the same size versus a different sized, but I still think they would be super pretty. Okay, and that is what the bead garland looks like. And here is the bead garland and the bow garland together with a couple other DIYs from the video. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I really hope you guys have a wonderful and romantic Valentine's Day and Valentine's Day season. Bye!